Yeah, so just this morning, I'm going to be giving an introduction to the Citizen Science portal itself, and then just some of the recording projects and initiatives that we're currently running. So I suppose just as a wee bit of background first, who are the National Biodiversity Data Centre and what do we do? I suppose the long-winded way of it is that we're the National Centre for the collection, collation, management, analysis, and dissemination of data on Ireland's biological diversity. What that really kind of means is that the species that you see when you're out for a walk, or the things that you see even from the window when you're doing the dishes at the end of the day, people can submit that data to us, and that's biological records, and we can then map that data through our mapping portal. We try and make the data as freely available to everyone so that we're able to kind of better understand and assist with the protection of Ireland's biodiversity. So it's open. Most of the data is open access and available. Everything is visualized on our mapping portal, and it's open there for academics, our recorder network, and policymakers. It's all sitting there waiting and available. Just people have to use it. We're also a global biodiversity information facility, a GBIF national node. So that means that all the data that's sent in Ireland and recorded in Ireland can get kind of uploaded. So it's being used on a global basis as well. So we have two main pieces of infrastructure within the National Biodiversity Data Centre. We have Ireland Citizen Science Portal, and then we have biodiversity maps. So the Citizen Science Portal itself is effectively our infrastructure for capturing biological records. So basically what happens is people make sightings of different species, and they come in through a suite of dedicated online recording forms. With kind of, suppose, the prevalence of mobile phones and things like that, we also developed a biodiversity data capture app, which is available on Android and iOS. And there's also a desktop version, which has the kind of the entire suite. So if you can't find something on the app, it's probably best to put it into the desktop version. And just supposed to give a wee bit of a kind of a a lot of people hear biological recording, they think it's something that's very niche. It's only a handful of people that are doing it. Just as an example, there was over 171,000 records submitted through our Citizen Science portal just last year alone. Last year as well, we just recently passed the 1 millionth record mark through the Citizen Science portal in total. And we have close to 7,000 recorders, individual recorders submitting records last year. So it sounds niche, and if you're not kind of involved in the whole world of it, it might sound like it's something that's quite abstract or out there, but it is it's quite popular. The other side of things then, what Michelle was mentioning about the data validation process, all the data that comes into us needs to be validated before it can make its way on to biodiversity maps. So biodiversity maps effectively works as our validated database. The Citizen Science portal would work as an unvalid database effectively. So what that means is that you submit a record, you have a photo along with it, you have all the mandatory pieces of information that are needed for a valid biological record, and they come into either someone in the centre here that has the expertise or to an external national expert. And they would go through those records, and once they're happy that it's met the verification process, it goes and it gets uploaded then to biodiversity maps. And again, the diagram you can see on the right hand side there, the screen grab, is just kind of an example of what the mapping system ends up looking like. You can zoom into all those little kind of purple squares, and you can interrogate the records. You can see when they're from, what area they're from, the townland. All the information about the record is freely available online. And again, as I said, it's all available to view, with the majority of the data actually being available to even downloading that as well. So it's open source in that sense. So just as a quick example, kind of, it was already explained there, but it's just a kind of a quick schematic on how this actually works. So the data comes into us from the field recorders, either through the app or through the online submission form. It then goes into an unvalidated database, which we call the Citizen Science portal. The data goes through a validation process and then gets onto biodiversity maps. And again, it's open to anyone to be using. It can go on to, the data can even be updated as well. If people come along and they've worked out new methodologies and that's, or they've worked out ways to add value to the data, they can always come back, take the data back and re-upload it then again as well. So I suppose, what kind of biological recording schemes and initiatives do we have? So there's a whole suite really, that I'll kind of go, I'll pick out a handful of ones just that are either long-term or that I've been kind of involved in the coordination of myself. And they're across all different levels, from complete beginner to expert levels. And there's also record initiatives for a number of different taxonomic groups. And when we say taxonomic groups, that's basically just the, birds, butterflies, vascular plants, all the different types of group species that kind of fit into these different groups. And also many of the recorded initiatives also cover a range of different habitats. So there's likely something that you can get involved with in your own area. So never fear with that. So the very first way that people can get involved with recording and citizen science is casual recording. And this is basically recording that involves no set perimeters. You basically go out and you record what you like, when you like. And this is how we get the majority of our records, really. Casual recording includes everything from common to widespread. People hear that it's casual recording, they think, well, you're not getting anything interesting with that. You're getting the same things over and over again. But casual recording, some of the best finds that you ever get are ones that you come across just out of the blue sometimes. So again, this can often be one person seeing something that they think is noteworthy and submitting a record, or it's also something that maybe the recorder feels is of worth to record. But again, people can record everything on a regular basis as well. Some recorders will make lists for their local areas. They'll kind of do it either by taxonomic group. Some people will be interested in birds and won't record anything else. Other people will record just plants. Other people will record literally everything. And we have examples of all those kind of in our recorder network. Generally, the number of species that's recorded by an individual is dependent on the habitat itself and then the recorder skill level. And then again, as you kind of get further into it, some recorders will employ methods of looking for particular species, and that'll involve things like sweep netting and tray beating and all these different kind of methodologies. So getting involved in different taxonomic groups, I suppose it's finding what you're interested in first, really. If you'll get overwhelmed if you just start going out there and trying to record everything. But generally, with what we found with the most heavily recorded taxonomic groups are birds and plants, which is kind of you would expect that. Moths are extremely heavily recorded as well. There's a great moth recording network in Ireland. So I'd say a lot of people wouldn't maybe recognize that they would be a heavily recorded group. Butterflies are another one, which they're very well recorded, and again, mammals as well. A lot of people, you don't get to see them that often, but they kind of, I think people make the effort to submit records when they do see, foxes and badgers and Irish hare and things like that. So when I was talking about recording initiatives and monitoring schemes, what do I mean by that? Well, monitoring schemes are considered to be the gold standard in biological recording. And the reason they're considered to be the gold standard is that they're repeatable and it's done by the same person at the same location at a set time. So for example, something like our butterfly monitoring scheme, it's involves walking a fixed route known as a transect every week from April to September. Now it's obviously, you see April to September and every week, that's a lot of time commitment. So the people that do this kind of do this are doing it voluntarily. So there's a definite interest there to do this, because it is definitely a tough time commitment. There's also other ones, if obviously not everyone has that kind of time commitment available to themselves. There's also a 5-visit monitoring scheme and a garden butterfly monitoring scheme, which basically the 5-visit one is the same as the main one, only you do 5 visits rather than every week from April to September. The garden butterfly monitoring scheme is a simple count that's done 10 minutes and just basically see what kind of flies by, that kind of thing. So there is different kind of levels. There's different kind of if you don't have access to that kind of level of time. But how to get involved with it? Usually we would encourage people to start with casual recording first, just kind of get to know what's in your area, know the species. Butterflies are a nice group because there's only about 35 species, and you're probably going to be coming across, unlikely to be coming across even half of those in your area. There's probably only about 5 or 6 that you're going to be regularly seeing. And then we also do have a range of different ID guides and help as well. So there's things like butterfly swatches. I'll show an example of those at the end. We also have an online learning course for both the garden butterfly monitoring scheme and just on regular butterflies as well. And we have online posters and presentations as well. So the bumblebee monitoring scheme is very similar to that, only you walk the transect once a month from March to October. Bumblebees are generally that a little bit more active, both earlier and later in the season. They're a wee bit hardier than the butterflies. But there's also things known as flower timed insect counts. These are fit counts, and it's basically just you watch a patch of flowers for a set amount of time and see the different types of insects that are coming to it. Again, you don't need to have any background in entomology for it. You just have to know basically the difference between a fly, a beetle, a butterfly, a moth, those kind of things. You don't even need to go to the species level. And again, bumblebees are one of those things that it's good to kind of get casual recording first, just to get your eye into what's going there, because there's for a lot of people, there's no point putting all the effort and doing a walk every time if you don't know the species that you're going to be seeing. And again, there's swatches for those. There's online learning courses for the bumblebees as well, and we have online posters and presentations. So one that I'm currently coordinating now is a Ladybird Atlas for 2025. And again, this doesn't, currently we don't really have any kind of set parameters for it. It's effectively based on casual recording. So you go on, if you find ladybirds in your area, submit the records in, and they'll go into our Ladybirds of Ireland data set, which will go on to inform the actual atlas itself. And this is one of the easiest ways to get involved in kind of citizen science projects if you're looking for something that has an end goal. Atlas projects are amazing for this because we're effectively looking for to update the distribution on all these different ladybird species. So it's super simple to get involved with. We have regular help on social media for the species, and we have quarterly newsletters. So it does kind of build up that kind of community vibe as well. And one of the ones that's probably of interest to most people would be our spring flowers project, because who doesn't love spring flowers? There's only 20 species that we've chosen that are relatively common and widespread. There's a few rare species in there just to kind of keep the old heads at botanical recording interested as well. And basically you submit these records through the Citizen Science portal again, and we have spotter sheets. We've kind of taken on the feedback from people saying that, you know, they'd like doing this with their kids. So we develop spotter sheets. We've developed presentations. We have lots of help on social media for it as well. Once the season properly kicks off, there's project web pages and everything as well. So that's one of the easiest ones. You don't really have to have any background in biological recording before. Just, you know, kind of the enthusiasm for getting out there and looking what's really about you. And spring is a great time for that as well, because the 20 species we're looking at, there's not really going to be a whole lot else out in flower. So it does cut down on the amount of confusion species. So it's a really good time to get involved with it. So just to say as well that I'm talking about all these different groups, and I'm saying, you know, it's good to get casual recording, it's good to get learning. How do you get learning if you're completely, you know, if you're day one, you're saying, I want to start learning now, how do I do it? And I'm not interested, you know, it's the books can be very difficult. The terminology can be very heavy. There's a lot of Latin, a lot of Greek. So it's not always the most friendly thing, but we do run a series of workshops and training programs. So that'll be probably coming out in the next couple of months now. We'll have our training program for the year will be coming out, and that'll range just generally kind of on the demand, and then the expertise that's in either the centre and kind of Ireland in general. So just personally, I've run ones in the past on tree identification, butterfly identification. We'll be running one on the Ladybird Atlas as well. So that'll be getting people into the very basic kind of identification of Ireland's ladybirds. We won't be doing anything extremely deep with that, but just an introduction to the Atlas and an introduction to Ireland's ladybirds. And again, that really does help improve the level of the quality that's coming into the Citizen Science portal. There's people that are recording for years and come along, and they're able to consistently upskill as well, and they can learn new methodologies and kind of build a community with the other recorder network also. And just to say that there is, if you're not into kind of workshops and training, I know not everyone learns like that. We also do have our swatches. So that's the examples you can see on the right-hand side. And effectively, they have a picture on one side and then information relating to the species on the other that can help you identify it. And then again, there's lots of different groups on social media as well that can help with that. There's atlases and ID booklets as well that we provide. They're all available on our shop as well. And there's lots of free resources that are available all over the website. So if you have a particular interest in a particular taxonomic group or a project, there should be lots of information in that. And again, as I said, just, you know, I mentioned the whole 171,000 records, but since records began, we've had over 30,000 different individual recorders have submitted records. So there's a good kind of turnover of people that are submitting things, and we get a lot of one-off records as well from people. So people submit once and then they never submit again. That does happen quite a lot. But just one figure I want to highlight is that from that 7,000 records last year, there was a small cohort of 43 recorders that submitted over 1,000 records. So if you're sitting there today and wondering if you're looking to get involved in biological recording, that could be you in a number of years. It just depends on, one, it's a time commitment, but two, you'll be surprised by how quickly you can pick up these things as well. So again, anyone can be part of the recording network. It doesn't matter about your kind of anything to do with accessibility or your knowledge level. Everyone can be a part of it. So if anyone has any questions, let me know.